I worked with some penguins one time, and there was just one penguin that I don't know. He had a hard on for me. I mean, it was like he was,
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Popcorn Bucket List. We have a very special guest with us today. He has 123 IMDb credits in both TV and movies, including the upcoming movie coming out this weekend, Cocaine Bear. It's SMSU alumnus Isiah Whitlock Jr. here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us on the show here.
Oh, you're more than welcome. More than welcome.
We love talking movies on this show. We thought it'd be a great chance to talk with someone who knows the business a little bit more than we do, I would say, relatively. We want an expert opinion here for us today as we preview some movies coming up. But first things first, we're going to kind of talk shop with you with some other things here. I like to open things up with like a softball question here. What's your favorite color if you had one?
I would say my favorite color is blue.
Is there a reasoning behind that one, or?
There's something about it that just, kind of calms you down, I mean, if you got purple, I know some people who have colors that are purple and yellow, and that would be something you would have to deal with every day. Blue is just something you just kind of float through, people aren't looking at you. Looking at, where'd you get that purple shirt? You're trying to be like Prince, I mean, it's,
I like that.
Blue just kind of skate through and nobody seems to bother you. And it's not as severe as black. You can do black and blue, but blue is just blue makes everybody just kind of calm down.
Yep. I mean, what's better than a calm blue sky, clear blue sky outside? Yeah, I totally see your reasoning behind that one. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Do you this one might be a little bit trickier. Do you have a favorite movie of all time if you had to pick one?
Boy, that's a tough one. My sort of go-to movie is always a movie like Casablanca.
Okay.
But if you wanted to get something a little more updated, whenever Goodfellas is on, I can't stop watching it. Even though I'm in it, I bet I could probably quote every line, every scene from that movie, scene to scene to scene. When you really watch it, scene to scene to scene, is just brilliant. And even today, when I watch it, I sometimes find stuff that I missed 30 years ago. So it's that would be one. I like a lot of the film noir. I enjoy watching those. But I would say those two. I mean, I'm sure there's a few others, but I would start with those two, and I wouldn't be wrong.
I mean, those two are in like my top 20 of all time for sure. And I love what you said about Goodfellas. And I think that is such a good way to describe a good movie is no matter how many times you go back to it, you're going to find something new. I don't know how some directors and writers do that, but those are good picks.
Yeah. And I think I agree with you. Every time I'm just flipping through the channels and Goodfellas is on, it doesn't matter where in the film it is. I'll watch it till the end of it, whether I'm hanging out, well, maybe not hanging out with my kids. Maybe when they get a little older.
Maybe the censored TV together. Version if they're around, but.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of Cocaine Bear, Ray Liotta is in Cocaine Bear.
Yep.
And I worked with Ray Liotta in Goodfellas and I had seen him a couple of times since then. But we worked again in Cocaine Bear, and right before he passed away.
I was gonna say this was one of his last movies, if I'm correct. So what was it like, kind of reuniting with him? Because you mentioned you had a scene with him in Goodfellas.
Yeah, I mean it was time had passed. Mm-hmm. It was a little weird, and Goodfellas was like one of my first movies. I think it was either the first or second movie. So, a lot of water had flowed under the bridge since then.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was good to, chat and see him and know that, we were both still in the game and working hard and stuff. So that was kind of a feeling.
That's really cool. That's cool.
So one question that I kind of had that was kind of random, and then we'll get more into the crux of the interview, but this is just something I want to talk to you about personally. So you voiced a character in Cars 3. I don't know if you remember, River Scott. And I didn't know this at the time when I was watching the movie, but River Scott is based off of a historical NASCAR person. I am a huge NASCAR fan. So I just kind of wanted to talk to you about, did you know kind of about Wendell Scott when you took on the role? Did you know a little bit, or did you look into him afterwards or anything like that?
I didn't know anything about him before then, because, even today, you don't get that kind of information from NASCAR. I mean, not that they need to, but I didn't know that much about him. But when I really investigated his character and who he was, the guy was a pretty damn good driver. And I think if he was driving today, he would be a serious champion. But back in the day, with the times and the way things were, and living in the South and things like that, just wasn't going to happen, and that was kind of sad to realize, because he was a great driver, and I was very proud to, play someone like that and bring his story to life.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. It's not a story a lot of people told, because just yesterday at the time of this recording, the Daytona 500, the biggest race of the year, was happening, and this year is the 75th anniversary of NASCAR. So one of the big things is they're kind of like looking back on their history, and they were interviewing drivers, and they were talking about Wendell Scott yesterday and everything, and they were like, some NASCAR drivers are like, yeah, I never heard of this story. I never heard about him, anything like that. So I thought it was really cool that you were able to portray this character and kind of bring a little bit more of a spotlight to him. Every little bit you can do such an interesting character. And you're right, totally an underrated driver. One of the first African-Americans to win a NASCAR race ever. I'm curious if you ever heard the legend, this one legend of where he almost got like caught by the cops but was able to outrun them or whatever. I don't know if in your research you've ever heard this story.
Yeah, I think he was driving backwards.
Yes, exactly. Yep. This is the story that solidified how great of a driver and mechanic he was. I don't know if I ever told you the story, but basically he was out in like the backwoods of Virginia on a windy, hilly, forested road, from what I understand. Cops thought they had him cut off. They thought they had got him. And he just puts it in reverse, goes in through these winding woods and outruns them. Gets back to his house. He and his sons took the motor out of his vehicle. Cops get there. And he's like, "Oh, I wasn't out driving. I'm working on my car. The engine's out of my vehicle. I couldn't have been out." They took him to night court anyway. Reportedly, this is what I heard. I'm curious if you heard the same story. When the judge found out how the cops found Wendell with his engine out of the vehicle, the judge threw out the case because he's like, he couldn't believe that he had outrun the cops so much that he had time to get his engine out of the vehicle. Reportedly, the legend goes, the judge then said, "Next time you bring Wendell Scott into my courtroom, you bring the car, the driver, and the engine inside of it, or you don't bring him in at all." And so that to me was kind of solidified how good of a driver he was.
Yeah, he was. I think, and don't really quote me on this, but I think he was running moonshine.
That's what I heard too. That was the story I heard too.
That's the reason why the cops were after him. And so you do it through the woods because there's the trees and everything like that. So it's not like a straight shot on a freeway or something like that. Yeah. And, you take off through the woods, and he was able to outmaneuver and outrun the cops driving backwards. That's a pretty damn good driver, if you ask me. Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about that because someone has played that character. I figured, no one around here knows NASCAR like I do. So I needed to talk to someone about this historical figure. And you seem like, I don't even know if that's going to make the interview. I just needed that for me. So thank you so much for that. Oh, he should make the interview. I mean, he was a great driver. You know, like I said, I think he's in the Hall of Fame now.
Yeah, I believe he is. Yeah.
NASCAR Hall of Fame.
So I want to talk to you a little bit also about being a character actor. I've heard this is something you're described as a character actor. Some people who are watching this show may have heard this term or maybe have never heard of it at all. But I want to hear in your words, how do you describe being a character actor?
Yeah, that's when people describe me as a character actor, that's something I never ever really saw myself as. I mean, people say that and they want to attach a label to you. In some ways, they're right because I play a lot of different characters. So I guess that would make me a character actor. But I just always look at it as just me being an actor, no labels. I mean, it's not something you set out to do. You want to just do as many parts as you possibly can and work as much as you possibly can. That's what every actor wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with, if you're a character actor, you're going to work a lot. If you're a leading man, then you better hope that they're looking for a leading man. And there's a lot of so-called leading men out there. But would they classify themselves as a leading man? No. But once you get stuck and once you fall into that rabbit hole, it's hard to get out of, and people won't accept you any other way. Mm-hmm. I mean, somebody could probably accept me as a leading man. Who the hell knows? But I kind of like where I'm at, being an actor, and I love playing different characters. I would be bored if I played the same character, the juvenile or the leading man or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that would get a little boring. Probably make a lot of money, but it would still get a little boring.
Yep. Having that ability to kind of be able to change and shift whenever you would like to or whenever a role calls for it, I think that makes a huge difference, and especially the longevity sometimes with careers.
Yeah. Yep. But it's nice to be in demand like that. I mean, which actor doesn't want to? Even the leading man type guys want to go off and play different characters and things like that. But sometimes they're not accepted, mm-hmm. as a comedian or a serious, guy or something like that. They want to see you as what they know you as. And that to me is, are you really acting or are you just sort of pandering to,
to your crowd? Yeah.
So I feel like you kind of alluded to this, but is there types of characters that you prefer, like always kind of gravitate towards? Like, I feel like you've played some sort of cop or law enforcement at least more than a few times, or is there another type that you kind of prefer gravitating towards?
I wouldn't say that there's one I prefer or gravitate to. I've played a lot of different characters. I'm sort of like, I'll take whatever you got, Mm-hmm.
You're not very picky about it, I guess I should say.
No. And I've played a lot of creepy characters. Creepy guys need love too, so I'll do them. But it's I never look at it as a mean character or anything like that. I always just I look at everybody just kind of pretty much the same. Mm-hmm. And you're always just trying to find out what makes them tick. And if you can find that, what's going on inside of that person, you can be very, very successful. Okay. Because there's always a reason, even if the guy's some serial killer or something like that. Mm-hmm. Something in his mind is making him do what he's doing. And so it's, you want to get behind that. Now, I'm not going to say that's right, but, you if you're going to play that character, you need to be able to understand that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I do that with all of the characters. I always try to figure out what's going on inside of this person. What is he thinking? Why is he thinking that? And kind of go from there.
Creepy guys need love too. I need to see that on a T-shirt or something sometime. I don't know.
I like that.
So I kind of want to go into a little bit your origin story here. Kind of what got you into acting? Because one thing me and Ryan were kind of talking about before this, I feel like there's two camps when you're going into a profession or getting ready for college or whatever. There's some people who like know this is what they're doing. They've been doing this for years right away. Or there's someone kind of like me who I had a whole different plan and then something kind of took a left turn in college or whatever. So at what point, I guess, is what I'm asking here is at what point did you start thinking you were going to pursue acting? Or was there a point where you were like, for sure, that's it. That's what I'm going to do?
Well, I had originally come to Southwest on a football scholarship. And I got banged up quite a bit the first year I was there. I think I broke my ankle, had a couple of concussions and things.
Can I ask what position you played?
I was a defensive lineman.
Oh, very good.
I wasn't that big, but I was very fast and quick and very sort of slick, and getting behind the offensive line. And but I still got banged up pretty bad. Mm-hmm. And it sort of dawned on me, if you're not going to be a professional football player, this is a lot of pain to take.
Yep, a lot of stress on your body.
Yeah, and in some ways I kind of pay for it today. But it's so I said I got to find something else to do, and I stumbled into the drama department, and I auditioned for a play, and I got cast. And ever since then, things started to change. My appreciation for art and literature and things like that started to change, and my grades went up tremendously. I think there was a couple of years where I made the dean's list and things like that. I never would have done any of that, if I stayed on the course I was on. Mm-hmm. So then I liked it so much that's when I started to think, well, maybe, something can happen here. So I put everything into that. Mm-hmm. And then I went from Southwest to San Francisco at a drama school and worked there. Became a member of their company for about 4 or 5 years. And then when I left the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco, I came to New York. Okay. And I've been here since.
Do you remember what that first play was that you auditioned for at SMSU? Do you remember what it was?
It was The Crucible.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, it was The Crucible by Arthur Miller. I think I had the smallest part in the play.
But hey, the point is you made it on the first try. That's kind of what I got out of it.
Yep.
Yeah. I only had one line, and I got to say I was terrible. I had never. It was I was embarrassingly bad, and I had to say. I think the line was, "Come on, John," and I practiced in the mirror saying, "Come on, John. Come on, John. Come on, John. Come on, John." I mean, and this went on for hours. Only to get out there and not be able to do it. And I think one night I even forgot my line. It was embarrassing. But the funny thing is, years later, fast forward to I did a play with Arthur Miller here in New York, and I told him that the first play I had ever done was The Crucible, and of course he perked up and wanted to know where and who I played, and I had to tell him that I played the jailer in The Crucible. I don't even think he remembered writing the jailer. I could tell by the look on his face. He was hoping to hear like John Proctor or something like that.
Yeah.
It was the J.
Like a big character, one that he put a lot of thought in, so he could like talk ideas and shop. And he's like, "Oh yeah, the one line."
Yeah. I think he even had to go back and look it up, but that was besides the point. Here I was working with Arthur Miller, and so I had come a hell of a long way.
Yep, that's
for sure.
Almost full circle there.
Yeah,
that's cool. So I gotta ask then, was it when you decided to go into more of the arts area, were you initially planning on just stage, or were you thinking I would like to get into film and TV, or was it just what kind of pops up?
Yeah, it was sort of like whatever pops up.
Okay.
I mean, I knew eventually I would want to do film and television, but I really did make an effort to go to school and study, like, the different styles, method acting, things like that.
Yep.
And there was a lot of stage work available out in California when I went out there in the summer. I think there was one point where I was doing about 10 plays a year with the American Conservatory Theater, and then what I did in summer stock.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to New York, I had a really good foundation that nothing could really throw me off or budge me. And I enjoyed, all of the other plays, Shakespeare, some of the restoration plays, modern theater, Shaw, things like that, Ibsen. But would I play that now? No, I don't think I would be cast in that unless somebody, it would not be readily available. I don't want to say I wouldn't be cast, but I usually get things that are closer to me, and that's okay. I think that's what most actors should be doing. It's sort of like when they say, write about what you know. Well, act about what you know. And so that's what I do.
All right.
So yeah, you've done stage acting, you've done voices for animated characters, you've done movies, TV. Do you have like a preference? Like if you had to pick like a top 4, what would maybe be the number 1 that you've got to work with?
I don't really have a preference, only because there's a certain discipline for each one, and there's a certain enjoyment for each one. I mean, when you're on the stage, that's like immediate gratification. You're working one-on-one with the audience, and it's live. You really got to be at the top of your game when you're on stage. There's no cut. There's no going back. There's no, so you really got to hone everything down. In movies, you're going to get a wider audience, but you can, if you miss something, you just go back and reshoot it or redo it or just keep doing it until you get it right. But the thing about the movie is that movie's not going to come out for like about another year.
Yep.
It's weird because sometimes when people talk to you about it, you really got to struggle to sort of remember like what you actually did.
Yeah. Yep.
And people talk to you as if you shot it yesterday.
Yep.
That's actually kind of to my next point. You mentioned with stage instant gratification, and so yeah, how long ago was it that you were shooting Cocaine Bear then? Just so people at home kind of know what you mean by like how long you almost have to wait to see a response out of that piece of work.
We shot Cocaine Bear over a year ago.
Oh, wow.
But shot it in September, not last September, but the September before last.
Oof. So it'll be like 2021 roughly?
Yeah, something like that.
Wow, that's even longer than I knew it was a while. I didn't know it was that long ago.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be quite that long, but that makes sense.
Yeah, then you're right. Yeah, it'd be hard to remember kind of I don't remember what I did last year, 2022. I don't know how I would remember something in 2021 even.
Yeah, people talk to you like you did it like a week ago, and it's like, I don't think so.
Yeah, I need to check my notes. I need to check my calendar. What did I do that time? Yeah. So I've heard some stories about actors who have maybe like a process or hoops they have to jump through for them to do a project or something like that. I guess what I'm curious is like, so do you just like receive a script and like, do you have like a sort of your own criteria of whether or not you do a project, or are you kind of just like, I'm going to try everything. I want to experiment, try as many characters as I can kind of thing? Or do you have like a filtration system, I guess, or something like that?
No, I mean, it's you get a lot of stuff. You can usually tell if it's something, you're really excited about or something you really want to do. Even when I look at something like Cocaine Bear, I say to myself, I always sort of thought Cocaine Bear was not about a bear doing cocaine. I mean, I always thought it was about somebody in rehab who couldn't bear.
You thought it was a metaphor almost.
Yeah, I thought it was a metaphor for some thing, but you read the script and you say, oh, this is about a bear that does cocaine. And then you got to sort of rework your mind. Well, then do I really want to do this? Wait a minute, what's going on here? But then you say, well, this could be kind of interesting. This could be something that people might find kind of interesting. So you make the decision that way. I don't really, well, for one, I don't get that many scripts, but usually it's something. Usually the stuff I get is always a little bit of a challenge. But the reason why it's coming to you is because they sort of feel like they can get that out of you, and so you're going to be the guy they want to look at.
Yeah. So we kind of alluded to this earlier as well, but we mentioned Ray Liotta's in this movie as well. You've worked with him before. I want to talk about some other people you've maybe worked with multiple times. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you've worked with Margot Martindale before.
Yeah.
She also had a voice in Cars 3, and then you also worked on Your Honor, I believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. Our research department isn't great here, and by research department I mean me. Yep. But I guess my question is, being in so many projects across so many genres, formats, are there other actors out there that you've worked with multiple times that you're like always like, oh, they're part of this project, I'm in because I want to work with that actor?
I really can't. I hate to disappoint, but I really can't think of anybody.
Well, in that case, is there anyone you haven't worked with yet that you're kind of like, I'd like to work with this person on a project? Do you have like maybe a bucket list kind of thing?
No. I work with anybody. It's like, again, I'm sort of like, what do you got?
Yeah.
Tell me what it is. Tell me, I never even, I'm never too concerned about the people in it. I hope they're good. But because I always know things can go south very fast. So I'm usually pretty good, with working with, different people, new actors, things like that. I've worked with Margot many times. It's always a delight, to show up and see, she's working on the film or something like that. But anybody else, I work with pretty much anybody.
Then kind of switching over to directors, is it safe to say Spike Lee is one of your favorite directors to work with?
He is one of my favorite directors.
Yeah. What is it about working with Spike Lee? Because I guess I never really thought about this, but kind of seeing him behind the scenes or interviews, he does seem like a pretty fun guy to work with. So in your experience, what is it that you love about Spike and working with him?
I always sort of feel like, without this sounding, weird, but I always sort of felt like, even from the beginning, Spike kind of gets me. Spike kind of gets my humor. Spike sort of knows where I'm coming from, or what I'm trying to do. And he gives me a lot of leeway to just kind of create and come up with things. And which I always appreciate. I've always appreciated that from day one, that kind of freedom, because every actor wants that freedom. They want to say, let me do it first and show you what I got.
Mm-hmm.
Most any actors that are of any good or worth their salt will want to do that. You don't want to be told something. You want to be told something if you're totally missing the boat. But if you're not, you want to be able to say, this is what I was thinking. This is what I thought we could do. Mm-hmm. And have that director say, okay, yeah, show me, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, they'll tell you very, very quickly. But I've always been very successful working with Spike because he gives me that freedom. And when you go in and you're going to have that freedom, you can come up with a lot of stuff, which I think over the years I have. I remember when I worked with Martin Scorsese on Goodfellas, as small as the part was, he said, you do what you feel you want to do and need to do. It just kind of calms you down and relaxes you. Mm-hmm. Got the same from Elizabeth Banks on Cocaine Bear. Very, very easy to work with. She understands actors. She's very good that way. But working with people like that, if they give you that freedom and they give you that trust, you want to honor that trust by coming up with something and doing, a good job, especially if it's coming from you.
Mm-hmm.
So Spike Lee kind of being one of your favorite directors, who do you got? Who's like a second? Who's like an honorable mention there?
Let me see if there's anybody. Clark Johnson a couple of times on Your Honor and The Wire. He would be one of my favorites. Just recently, Elizabeth Banks, working with her, was one of my favorites. I had a good time working on Cocaine Bear. Some of the directors from The Wire were very good. But it changes. And usually, if you are doing a lot of characters, you're always going to have some different directors. If you're not locked in, because it's like, Cecil B. DeMille, who works with, Hudson, is it Hudson or who played Moses? Charlton Heston.
Charleston, yep.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, and they'll have their one guy and they'll work with that person, but I'm usually kind of like a one and done,
Okay.
And you go in, you knock out the character and you move on.
Yep. And that was interesting because we were kind of talking earlier too about with Elizabeth Banks with Cocaine Bear, a lot of the, I would say, general public know of her as an actor. Like that, they don't necessarily know that directing side of her. And just listening in from what you were saying, it sounds like you had a lot of fun and she was a good director. So yeah, that was, because we were going to ask too, can you tell sometimes the difference of if the director of the film or the television show is used to directing, or if they have some experience in the background as an actor?
You can tell. You can tell. Yeah. Elizabeth Banks went to the American Conservatory Theater as an actress, which is where I trained.
Yep.
You can sometimes tell, you can just sometimes tell in conversations and things like that you have with them. I don't think that's a good thing or a bad thing, because, as a director, you got all different things. You're trying to set up so many different shots. You got the master and the two shot and this, and you're hoping that the person who is in front of the camera is doing what they're supposed to be doing. But you can usually sometimes tell if they have that background.
Yeah. All right.
What else can we kind of look forward to you working on right now? I guess, is there anything working on right now? I realize now talking to you, it's going to be quite a while till some of this stuff is basically, I guess what I'm saying is, are you working on anything right now that we're going to see in a year and a half from now or something like that?
I've got one project coming up. I can't talk about it right now.
I thought we had him. I thought we had the scoop there for a second.
Well, in about a year and a half, 2 years,
we'll figure it out.
We'll be excited to watch it.
I'll be back in about a year and a half. But yeah, those projects that are kind of like, irons in the fire, if they haven't announced the project, then I'm always a little hesitant to say anything about it.
Better be safe than sorry. I get that.
Yeah. I can usually talk about the stuff that's been shot. I mean, Cocaine Bear comes out on Friday, and I think much everything that I would be hesitant to talk about has already been spoken about. People ask, "Oh, is it a real bear or is it CGI?" That would have been a little weird if it was a real bear.
Because we were going to ask that too. Was there ever at one point that you were relatively close to a real bear or a real bear on set?
Or was it CGI the whole time?
Yeah, you got to do CGI.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of what we thought, but you never know. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I don't, disappoint people, and they don't. But I mean, come on, people.
Yeah.
I mean, if the bear gets loose and eats somebody, I mean, you got a lot of
problems. Yep.
Maybe back in the day they could. I mean, you could use a real bear, but
would you have still signed out of the movie if it was a real bear, do you think? Because I'm terrified of animals personally. It's just one of my things. I don't know if I would have. Even if they had told me it's sedated, it's trained, all that, I would have been like, nope, I'm out. I'm not doing it.
No, I would have. I still would have done it.
You still would have done it?
Oh, yeah. I would not be up on the bear.
Yeah.
I remember one time I did a commercial with a camel. And
see, even a camel, I don't think I would work with. I'm just not an animal person.
That was the thing, is that the camel was supposed to be okay, and there was a guy there with dreadlocks or something, and the camel bit him on the head, and they said that they thought it was the dreadlocks that set the camel off or something like that. But my point was, like, if there's any possibility of anything setting this camel off, he shouldn't be there. The camel shouldn't be there. But I'm up on riding the camel, and we're supposedly pretending we're in Saudi Arabia, and the camel bites the guy on the head, and I mean, and then I wanted to just get off the camel. I was like, what other surprises does the camel have?
Yeah.
But
I'm just picturing that in my mind.
That's
so funny.
I'm gonna see if I can find that commercial somewhere.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other times. I worked with some penguins one time, and there was just one penguin that, I don't know, he had a hard on for me. I mean, it was like penguin. Pardon. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're okay.
A family show, but the penguin just wouldn't leave me alone. It was like, I don't know if I owed the penguin money or something, but it was like he just chased me, and it started to freak me out because, I mean, I'm sure a penguin, how much damage can a penguin do? But I didn't want to find out.
Man. I'm starting to regret all of our other questions. I wish we had just asked him all of his animal on set stories right now.
Yeah.
But every time I saw something move in my peripheral vision, I was jumping because I thought it was the penguin that was after me. So
just trying to get you.
Yeah.
I'll pass. Like I said, you pass on working with the animals, but if the animal is, the main character in the movie, you got to try to knock it out.
Yep. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Was there any other questions we had here? I think we covered most of everything here.
Ooh, I got one last for you.
Yeah.
So I have 2 young children at home, and we spend a lot of time watching game shows because we can all watch them together. And is there a game show, any game show that if you had the opportunity or would love to go on, whether it's Family Feud, Jeopardy, America Says, whatever, has there ever been one that you're like, I would like to go on that show and I think I'd do pretty good?
If I could wear a mask, so nobody would know that it was me, you know, I could do Wheel of Fortune.
Ooh.
Or Family Feud would be fun. If I went on with my family, which would be kind of weird. But I could do those. I could do those two.
Okay.
Jeopardy. I would be so embarrassed at, you know, how much money I either lost or was in the hole.
Yep.
I don't think. I think I would just get on Jeopardy and clam up, and you know, they say, well, you know, you don't have any money. Here's some parting gifts. You know,
that'd be like Celebrity Jeopardy on SNL. They always got those like really cartoonish characters, and they're always like how many negative dollars in the hole or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. But those two, I mean, you know, the Family Feud would be fun. Wheel of Fortune would be fun. But those are the two that kind of come to mind.
Okay, very good.
If you like that conversation, don't worry, there's more where that came from. Be sure to be on the lookout for part 2 of this interview, where we talk about this weekend's biggest releases, as well as Isiah gives us his thoughts on some of the biggest Oscar contenders of this year.